What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Sorry for the delay tonight. I've been in the middle of a playfield swap. Yes, another one. It's for my solid state 1980 Gottlieb Circus. And it is looking beautiful. So I'm pretty excited to get this all back together and fire it up. See what happens. There were some spots in the harness that had been cut, so I'm going to attempt to repair those tomorrow. I had contemplated simply swapping the entire harness from my other playfield, but decided against doing that because that's crazy. Now, as usual, I'm under a deadline, and that never helps anything. So for tonight, though, I wanted to pick up where I left off last night. I talked about the shutter, but one thing that I've never talked about is the board that lies underneath of the shutter. And I'm not sure of the correct term for this board. You know, I always call it the bottom board or the roll down board. And this is separate from the bottom board that might be in a 60s or 70s EM flipper game. This bottom board acts as a ball catcher. When the shutter opens, all the balls drop. But if they dropped straight down, they just fall down into the cab and never make their way to the trough. There has to be some system for the balls to make their way back to the trough so that they can be pushed back up to the shooter lane. In order to do this, Bally custom made these boards that would return the balls to you. Depending on the type of game and the layout of the playfield, these boards were actually laid out differently. So they're not immediately interchangeable. If you happen to have one lying around for one game, it may not work in the game you're intending to use it for. So if you have a few of these parts in storage somewhere, it's probably good to note the game that it came from, just in case you run into an issue with fitting it in a particular game. So the bottom board is essentially another piece of MDF, which is screwed to a rail that sticks out of the side of the cabinet on both sides. It's usually held in place by 4 screws, and there are 2 or 3 blocks of wood, which are not very large, that stand up from the bottom board and are angled down. So when the balls drop, they always fall down towards the trough, and it's angled when it's installed. So as the balls go down, the bottom board narrows as it gets toward the trough. Now, Bally's ingenious trough design, which I've talked about before, makes it so that it's incredibly hard for the balls to jam up. I really, 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 really love this design, and there are few machines that replicate it. I just think it's incredibly clever and at the same time very simple. But this board, this bottom board, the only maintenance tip I can give you is to keep it clean, because of course If it's dirty, the balls are going to pick up that dirt as they roll back down to the trough and then lift up into the shooter lane with that dirt still attached, which will then roll onto your clean, freshly waxed playfield. So ensure that you give that a good wipe down. The other thing I'll say is to inspect and try and jiggle the pieces of wood that stand up from the bottom board and see if they move at all. If they do, what may make sense is to drill a small pilot hole and nail an extra support nail or two into that block of wood so that it doesn't move. You want to be careful not to split any of this wood, but this will help reinforce it should there be an issue. And of course you can just take it apart and replace the nails that hold it together normally, should you so choose. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.